The first source of power is that trusted business partner relationship that your people, if you're a service supplier, have with their customers. If you think about it, a customer meets with a service person. The customer is thinking the service person is there to solve their problem. That's their only goal, and that's true. If a customer meets with a salesperson, there are different motivations, and the customer can get nervous about the motivation of the salesperson to sell more versus help them solve their problem. So the service person is embedded in the minds of the customer as somebody who's really going to help. The second source is the service person has tremendous knowledge of the customer. He knows how the customer is trying to apply his products and services, the challenges that he's having. He should also more and more understand what is it that the customer is trying to achieve. What are the business outcomes that they need to get to? And what are the problems that they're encountering getting there? And that brings it to the third power, which is the service person's knowledge of your own capabilities. That knowledge of your own capabilities means that your service person can help the customer address their business needs and get to their outcomes in ways that the customer never imagined. They can anticipate and take action proactively to get to the customer's real problems. And that's what we call the power of revenue generation.
Yeah, Paul, I really think this is a great graphic. And what I really like very, very much is the pink and blue circle. Very often, customer service or technical service people do not leverage that enough, and we all know that the supplier very often know the customer even better than the customer know himself.
Exactly.
Leveraging that two circle will definitely move things further. And we have that customer in the microelectronics area that is now moving all his customer service, technical service, field application engineer into a more customer-focused mode, leveraging this three circle all together. Consider they are moving 4,000 people into that mode of thinking. So I think now they have moved, we'll train already something like 1,500 people, and they start to see dramatic results in terms of reduction of firefighting. They see a reduction of pressure and attrition because the customer used to put a lot of pressure on customer service people. They are now measuring a better rate of renewal of their contract at the SLA. It's really moving on. Imagine when they will have all the 4,000 people trained in this new mentality.
Exactly. And we want to talk next about how we can leverage, as Fab is suggesting, how can other companies leverage the power of the knowledge of the customer and the knowledge of your own capabilities. You know, one of the things that we know is that your field service people are visiting different customers an average of 70 times a month. Huge numbers of touch points with the customer. Imagine with each one of those touch points, instead of thinking reactively about what am I going to do on this service call or what do I have to do in this installation, they were thinking about what's the problem that the customer has here. As we'll see, proactivity and understanding the customer's real problems are the key to success. But before we do that, I want to ask you a couple of questions. We very often give our customers or people that we meet in this business a quick quiz. We ask them, first of all, what percentage of their people in the field, their technical support people, already have that trusted business partner relationship. And it probably doesn't surprise you that most of the time they tell us more than half, 60%, even 70, 80, 90% will tell us that their people have that trusted business partner relationship already. But then we ask them another question. We ask them, so what percent of them are using that knowledge, using their knowledge of the customer to address the customer's real issue? In other words, of those 60%, they may have that knowledge because they have this trusted business partner. They have the relationship, but are they applying it? And the number, again, typically tends to be fairly low. We then ask a third question. What percentage of your people are using their deep knowledge of your capabilities to proactively address their customer's real issue. And again, the number tends to be fairly low. So imagine then if you were to multiply the 60% who have the relationship by the 20% who are using it and the 20% who are using your capabilities, you can imagine that in the end it's a very, very small portion of your technical service people who have the capability to do it but are actually doing it.
Yeah, I want to make a comment here, Paul. The first point, the first question, the brown circle is always pretty high because they are very often at the customer. The other 2 points are generally low because they are not especially trained to leverage those capabilities, and so they do what they usually do, so being reactive and being problem solver. So the percentage of people that have in mind to really generate revenue when they are in the field is pretty low. And now I'm taking the example of this customer that I mentioned before. Imagine they have 4,000 people in the field. You take 2%, what is it? 80 people?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, better than nothing, you can say, but it could be much better if you do a little effort.
Yeah. And in fact, with that customer, as we've continued to take those people, the majority of whom do have that relationship, and teach them the skills and support them in implementing those skills, what we're seeing is, in fact, they are generating more revenue. They are creating those relationships, creating value for the customer, and creating revenue and other opportunities for their own company. So the goal should be this. Try this with your own company. Ask your people, what percent do you think have this number? And then ask them what percent are applying this number and what percent are using their knowledge of their capabilities to proactively. And then imagine if you could increase that. Maybe you could go from 60 to 90%. Maybe you could go from 20 to 50%. The result can be a startling gap, a tremendous opportunity, maybe 10 times. So the 80 people with one customer that were doing this can maybe go to 800. And imagine now
that's huge.
800 people visiting the customer every single month and taking these actions.